Hello everyone, my name is Mr. Gutierrez. Some of you may not know me. I am a placement student working in Mrs. Casey's classroom. I am from Alma College. I've been working with her for about the past 6 weeks. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to solve nonlinear systems of equations with your graphing calculator, which I have mine right here. So this is just more of a reference video. So first of all, this is our first nonlinear system. So before we are able to put any of our equations into our graphing calculator, we have to make sure everything is set equal to y. As you can see, each one of these equations is not set equal to y. So your best bet to make it less confusing is to separate these two equations from each other like this. So we're going to have x minus 3y equals negative 3. And over here, we're going to have x plus y equals 5. Now that they're separate, it's much easier to figure out how we're going to solve for y. So we're going to pay attention to this side first. So what we're going to do is we are going to subtract x on both sides for this one. So now we're going to have negative 3y equals negative 3 minus x. So now what we're going to want to do, because this y is still not alone, we are going to need to divide both sides by negative 3 as well. This gives us a final equation where we have y equals, and me personally, I like to put x towards the front of my equations, so I'm just going to move this forwards. So if we look here, we have all of our subtraction signs are gone. So we're going to have a 1/3 x plus 3. This is going to be our first equation. Over here, it's a lot easier. All we're going to have to do is subtract x from both sides, so that way we can get our y by itself. Y is going to equal 5 minus x. Perfect. So now, so we can figure out how to put it into our calculator, we're going to want to rewrite it to look like this with our bracket on it. So we're going to have our bracket over here. You're going to put this equation on the top part. So we're going to have our y equals 1/3 x plus 3 over here. And then we're also going to put this one right below it. We're going to have our y equals 5 minus x. Okay, so now we need to figure out how to put this into our graphing calculators. So if you look right here, we have a y equals button. We're going to hit that. We have to make sure that all of our slots are empty before we put anything into it. So what I like to do is the top equation that we have right here is what I'm going to put in for my y1. And this bottom equation right here is what I'm going to put in for my y2. So when you have a fraction to plug in, it is the best thing to do is to just put a parenthesis around that fraction. So we're going to have our 1/3 in parentheses. And we have to put an x next to that. Our x is actually going to be located right here for us on our graphing calculator. So I'm going to hit that. And then the rest of the equation says plus 3, so we just have to add that in. You can just hit enter, and now you can put in that second equation, which is going to be a 5 minus x. We also want to make sure our window on our graph is going to be good, so we're going to hit this button right here. And I think having our x minimum and x max being -10 and +10, and same thing with our y min and y max being -10 and +10, I think that is going to be a good window for us. So we're going to then hit our graph button, which is right here on our calculator. And as you see, we have both of our graphs going right here. And we want to find this point right here where our graphs are intersecting with each other. So that's going to be the way we solve this system. So to find that, you're going to want to hit second trace. By hitting second trace, you get to this little thing over here where it says calculate. So we're going to find what we want to calculate, which is the intersection, which is number 5. So you're going to go ahead, come down here on your calculator, and you're going to hit 5. And if you look right here, it's asking you what the first curve is. So you're going to use your cursor right here, get as close to the point of intersection as possible on this part of the graph. You're going to hit enter. It's then going to ask you about your second curve, which is going to be this one right here. So you're going to do the same thing with your cursor. You're going to try to get it as close as you can to that point, and you're going to hit enter. It's then going to ask you to guess. So you just have to hit enter when it says guess, and it's going to give you exact intersection where these 2 points meet, which is 1.5, 3.5. So our x coordinate is 1.5 and our y coordinate is going to be 3.5, and that is going to be the solution to our system. I like to draw little arrows so I know when I am done. So we're going to have 1.5, 3.5. Okay, we're going to move on to our next example. This one, if you notice, we have an x squared right here. So that's going to be a parabola. So this one's going to be pretty easy to make sure all of our y's are equaling the same. If you look right here, we have this one is set equal to y. We just have to find this one to be set equal to y. So I'm going to bring this equation right here and bring it right down here so that way I can solve for that y. We're going to have x minus y equals -2. And I am going to subtract by x because we want to always keep that y on the left-hand side. And we're going to subtract x on this side. So now we have -y equals -2 minus x. And all we have to do is divide by that -1, because if there's a negative in front of one of our variables, just remember we have a little pretend invisible 1 right here. So we're going to divide by that -1 to get rid of the negative on this side, and we're going to divide this entire side by -1 as well, which is going to turn all of these into plus signs. So now we have y equals, and remember I like to put my x's first, so we're going to have x plus 2. So we're going to rewrite this system where both of our equations are set equal to y. So we are going to have, our new system is going to be this. We have y equals x plus 2 and y equals x squared. So, okay, we are going to come back over here to our graphing calculator. Let me make sure, there we go. So we are going to hit the y equals button again. And now, since we are done with the last problem, like before, we have to make sure that these are cleared out so we don't have any extra graphs present that we don't want. And I like to have y1 to be the top equation. So I'm going to put x plus 2. And then we can hit enter, and that gets us down to our y2 equation, which is right down here. And we're going to hit x. And our little squared button is right here for us, and I'm going to hit that. And so now we have y equals x squared right there. I think that this is going to be a good window still for us, so we're going to hit graph. And as you see, we have everything's on there good. And you also see we have 2 points of intersection right here. So that means we're going to have to calculate both of those intersections. So we're going to hit our second trace so we can get to our calculate. And we're going to hit 5 because we want to calculate that intersect. And I want to find this intersection here first. So I'm going to bring my cursor right over here as close as I can to that point. Hit enter. For the second curve, I want to get that as close as possible as well. And we're going to hit enter. And since it's asking us to guess, we're going to hit enter again. And right here, our first intersection is going to be -1, 1, where x equals -1 and y equals +1. I'm going to write that down for us because we have 2 possible answers for this. So -1, 1. And this is going to be our second one, and I'll leave that space open. And we're going to do the exact same thing to find the other intersection for us. We're going to hit second and trace. And we're going to hit 5 again. But instead of finding this point, we're going over here to this point. So we're going to bring our cursor over there as close as we can to that point, hit enter, and we're going to go on that second curve, get it as close as we can, hit enter once more, and since it's asking guess, where do we hit? We're going to hit enter again. And this is going to be our second point of intersection, which is going to be x equals 2 and y equals 4. So we're going to put that right in here. And these are going to be our solutions for this system. And we have one more example today in this helpful little reference video for you. Okay. So as we see, in this system, we have one of our equations already equal to y. So all we have to worry about is this top equation right here. We are going to bring that down. So that way we can think about it away from the system so it's less confusing for us. We are going to have x minus y equals -1. And remember, we are solving for y. We want y to be all by itself. So we're going to subtract x from both sides. Now we have a -y equals -1 minus x. And to get rid of this negative, remember we have that invisible 1 right here in front of our y. So we are going to divide by -1 on both sides as well, which gets rid of our negative sign right there. And look, we have negatives everywhere on this side, so we can turn all of those into plus signs. So now we are going to have y equals, remember I like to put my x first, so we have x plus 1. That is the other equation in our system. So we know how to put it into our calculator. We are going to rewrite that system. So our top equation is going to be this one right here because that's the one that we have up here. So we're going to have a y equals x plus 1. And our bottom equation for this system is going to be a y equals -x squared plus 3. Now we're going to bring our handy dandy calculators right back out. We are going to come over here to y equals. We're going to hit that button. Make sure we clear out both of these slots for us. And we're going to put in our first equation, which is our top one. We're going to have y equals x plus 1. And we're going to go ahead and hit enter because we got to put in that second one. We're going to put a -x squared. So we have our negative button down here, x button right here, squared button right there, and that's how we get our -x squared. And we are going to go ahead and hit plus 3. And I still think that this is going to be a good window for us, having -10 and 10 for both our x mins and y mins, and then our x maxes and y maxes. We're going to go ahead and hit graph once more. And if you notice, since we have that wonderful negative sign in front of our x squared, that is why our parabola is facing downwards. Okay, so we need to find our points of intersection right here. We are going to hit second trace, which gets us over to calculate. And we're going to hit 5 because we want to calculate those intersects. First curve, we got to bring this cursor down as close as we can to this point. I like to find the left points first. We're going to hit enter. Now it's asking us to go along the second curve to get as close to that point as we can. Sometimes you just have to go back and forth and see which one you think is closer. Hit enter. It's asking guess. You know what that means? We hit enter again. Okay, so this point of intersection is going to be x equals -2 and y equals -1. So I'm going to go ahead and put this first one down right here. So x equals -2 and our y is a -1. And we are going to have a second point of intersection, so I'm getting that set up for us. Pull back out our calculator, and we have to do the exact same thing for this point of intersection right there. So hit second and trace, and that gets us to our calculate once more, and we are going to hit 5 because that's what we want to find is intersection. And we are going to bring this cursor right on over to this point as close as we can get it. Hit enter. It's asking us about our second curve again. Try to get that point as close as we can, and it's asking us to guess, so we hit enter. This point of intersection is going to be x equals 1 and y equals 2. X equals 1, y equals 2. And these are going to be our solutions for our nonlinear system of equations. I hope this video was helpful for everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening.